Charlotte Soccer Show. World Cup banter is back 17 days into this tournament. Few extra days off, more than planned, unfortunately, but we are back. I'm Danny Brams here in Charlotte, repping for the crown and the cup. My guy Matt Geslin out in Portland, rocking a very nice piece of World Cup art. You've been showing that during the shows we've been doing, Matt, and I really love that artwork over your left shoulder if you ever want to talk about that. But how you doing today? I'll answer that in a second. I just want to say, you can probably hear in my voice, I'm under the weather, and that's why we actually, even though we had big plans, if you heard our last show after day 14, I think we were like, oh, we're going to do a big show on day 15, and then it all fell apart. I caught a cold, so apologies there to everyone, but I think I'm back. And Geslin, I've talked enough now. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Danny Brams. Good to hear from you. We were texting. You were feeling under the weather, so we're glad that you're doing better. Definitely nice timing with the actual 2-day break in the tournament from gameplay. So we have a chance to still catch up. Yeah, you mentioned this piece right here. One of my favorites in the entire house. There's a couple others that I can maybe display some other time or show the folks if they're interested, but it is a poster of all of the World Cup official match posters from the tournament that they put out to kind of like commemorate the tournament, staged and kind of pictured together, mapped out on a canvas, and then framed. So it goes all the way back from the original one in 1930 to Korea in 2002. So it doesn't have the most recent, but pretty fun piece to have, and I love looking at it. It's just a really cool, emblematic look at history and where the World Cup has gone and different cities and different countries it's been to, things like that. So it's a really cool piece, and it gets the good shot. Otherwise, like I said, there's another one I'd love to share with you guys. I can't be in the room with certain conditions, but we'll just leave it at that.
Well, Korea and Japan in 2002.
Yes,
co-host,
correct.
I think.
Co-host.
I think the first ever co-host of the World Cup back then.
Yep.
2026 will be a try co-host, and
which will be a first as well. So that'll be interesting.
Do you think everyone in America is just like, yeah, we're hosting the World Cup, and not really like, yeah, we got the cup next in 26. They're not even. No one in the United States is remembering that it's actually North America, Canada, and Mexico are hosting.
Yeah, there is, especially that U.S. lens that kind of that kind of puts itself on things. So there are other cities in other countries participating in the next one, but yeah, most of the people will say U.S.
Yeah, I'd love to go see a World Cup match in Monterrey, Mexico.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
That would be amazing. So yeah, lots going on. You'll have to give us the close up on that artwork at some point. That's why I brought it up. But yeah, so we got a lot going on in the cup. We got 4 games to catch up on, the last 4 games in round of 16, and we got some crazy stuff going in our fantasy pool. We have a first-time winner, someone who was down at the bottom of the standings, won a daily prize and started to move up, got their money back, which is really cool. We have another repeat winner yesterday during the Portugal and Switzerland, Morocco, Spain games. But first, let's take it back, because you made a pick. You made some bold predictions, and you're not above bold predictions, and you put your money where your mouth is. I believe you did lay some action on this in Vegas. You picked both Japan to beat Croatia and Korea to beat Brazil.
Yep.
So we'll keep it on that Korea and Japan thing. Maybe you just have a thing for Korea and Japan. I don't know, but how did you feel when you picked it?
I have an affinity for Asian culture, I guess. I tried for it. I did put my money where my mouth was, like you said. I actually put it in 3 places. We'll get to that in the next breakdown of the other games. And it does go back to Johnny's point that he emphasized on the show. So we'll get there in a second. But yes, both Asian countries, I figured there would be one representative of Asia potentially in the semis, in the final 4. So that was just my thinking there. Unfortunately, Korea came out, laid a really big fat egg. Right out of the gate, Brazil just put the hammer down. They looked really good. I can't deny that. Again, I think there are some areas, some holes that Croatia can give them trouble and present and open up and just kind of showcase some of those areas that are kind of a gap for the Brazilian team. But again, Korea was no match to, unfortunately. Japan, the Blue Samurai put up a performance. It wasn't necessarily, the typical snatch and grab like they've done in this tournament with Germany and Spain. But they played a really good game, got down to penalties. with Croatia, a team that everyone kind of looks at as a sneaky little team, talent, obviously the World Cup finalist in 2018. Luka Modric, one of the best players in the world, still very, very prevalent for them. So yeah, a great game there. Some of the worst penalty kicks I've seen in that PK performance by Japan. We can, again, all around, we'll get to Spain's in a minute too.
From some good players, right? Minamino,
yeah.
Matoma, those guys are
Yeah, so
it
just
in
don't
big
know
leagues.
what's going on with these players. I think everyone's getting a little too cute with PKs. Just smash the ball in the back of the net sometimes rather than these little things. But yeah, really poor PKs from Japan, and Croatia goes on. So
let me ask you this. So you're a fan of the Japanese team. So let me let's talk bigger picture for a second. What do you think of the entire Japanese football project that has sent so many of these guys in their starting 11 here, and the subs who came in have they've moved on from the J League to go play in Europe. So Kamada in Germany, Maeda at Celtic, Johnny Ito in the French league, and he played in Belgium.
Yeah, and I think
Mitoma in the Premier League. Minamino came to Liverpool and won Japan. The Japanese Federation, I've read about this, really did put an emphasis on trying to send their best players to the European leagues to develop. Not necessarily at the expense of the J League, but just in trying to season these guys. And do you think it worked out?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there, not to pinpoint a European league, right? I think everyone has their opinion on which league sits in the pecking order of status or prestige. But to play in Europe against the best players in the world, I think there was a lot of discussion about how the U.S. team that won their game against Iran was all European players, no domestic players, right? So I think there is that perception of getting your players out of your domestic league to some extent for some of these outskirt countries or nations, and get to Europe, whether that is at the Premier League or even in the Championship. That one level lower is still a very competitive league compared to the J League. So I think Japan has been a program that has been always around and always have had players in the past come to the Premier League. Man United had a couple of them over the years. You've seen them kind of pop in and out. Yeah, exactly. Kagawa. So, I think there is that connection. I think that a lot of these, like I said, not smaller nations, let's just put it that way, these smaller footballing nations that recognize their domestic league is only going to take them so far. They use that as a stepping stone to develop some or recognize the young talent, and then send them to Europe. And so it didn't surprise me that Japan came up and had a good competition, because they do have some experience and they're going to be good in the future.
They went toe to toe with Croatia, and they did their thing, and they could have won, but again, you said just some of the worst penalties that we could have seen. What do you think of some of these bad penalties we've seen, and then to see what Morocco did in their shootout? We'll talk it more later, but the Panenka for the win was, they're like, hey, this is how you take penalties, boys. Come on, show the world.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to Morocco, and that's at the end. I think that you have a little bit of room, but I think some of these guys, they're seeing, the Neymars of the world and the Lewandowskis, who also had a pretty poor penalty against France, even though he got to retake it. But that first one was just as poor. You see some of these high end players doing some of these, fancy run-ups and hop, skips, and a jump, and like Jorginho does, and trying to fake out the goalie. And sometimes they get a little too cute. I used to be a penalty taker back in my day. My record was pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Not nearly at this level. Okay. Not nearly at this level, but I played as a kid and grew up, and you just smash the ball in the net. You just take it, you put the ball down, you look at the goal, you pick a spot, and you put your foot through the ball. I mean, there's really nothing more to a penalty than that. And I think we're trying to get a little cute, trying to get fancy and showboat. And ultimately it cost Japan, and really it cost Spain. Not only this tournament, in the past, they've had trouble with penalties for whatever reason. My advice to anyone who's about to take a penalty, and again, I'm not playing in the World Cup, but put the ball down, pick a spot, put your foot through it, and smash it through the net. That's all you have to do. And
there we go.
Celebrate. So.
Advice, penalty taking advice for world-class footballers from an apartment in the corner of Portland, Oregon. There we go. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Well, And Japan went toe to toe. But we got to talk about a team that did not show, and that would be the Koreans. Excuse me.
Yep.
We move over to that 4-1 against Brazil. It could have been 40-1 at a certain point. Brazil was kind of just doing whatever they wanted, and then they went into chill mode. Not good times for the Korean team. They, Sonny got with a 6.0 rating from SOFA. The center backs probably had the highest ratings, probably just because they saw the most action in terms of making a few tackles. Some of these guys never saw the ball. Johnny's heartthrob, Gyu-Sung Cho, total no-show, just a rough situation for all 80 minutes. And really, we looked at his full tourney heat map yesterday, and it was like full of pockets of red here. Here he was just like standing out of the wing saying, please, somebody pass me the ball.
Pass me the ball?
Yeah. So not great. But let's forget Korea. Let's talk about the Brazilians. I mean, what a performance, right? I mean, like, Neymar's back. And I knew he was going to be playing. People were like, oh, Neymar might be available for this match. And I was like, he's starting. Like, get it through your head. Like, he was barely hurt before. So, I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, unfortunately for Korea, they didn't show up. But I think, to your point, Brazil also didn't let them show up in some aspects.
Mm-hmm.
That quick goal, the first goal, the way it was, the penalty – a penalty, a little soft maybe, but a penalty, and they were just back to back, and the game's over, right? Yeah. So, then
biggity bam, 36 minutes,
13 minutes into the game, and you're down 2-0. So, especially against Brazil. So this didn't surprise me once that happened. I didn't expect an egg from Korea. Like I said, I thought, what we saw in the Japan game was a little bit more how this was going to play out, or even the Morocco game where it was tight. All the way to the end. Maybe Brazil kind of stretched and showed off in the second half and maybe made the same scoreline. But I didn't think it was going to be 13 minutes in, game over. Second half, let's rest some guys, get some guys in. So they look good. I mean, I still think you have some question marks in the back. I think they were exposed a little bit. Allison had to make quite a few saves, even though, you can look at it where they taking their foot off the gas.
And they gave up a goal. I mean, they did give up a goal.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
they conceded.
Again, foot off the gas. Does that take into account, Danny Alves came in the second half,
old man Danny.
So
5 saves from Allison. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were good, and they were good saves. And a couple of them were important saves, at 4-0 or it doesn't sound like it, but when you're, we've seen this tournament, something happens and snowballs and you get 1 or 2. So yeah, I mean, I still think they're favored to advance in this next round. But I don't think they're a shoe-in. I think there was I called it out. Their defense still concerns me. And when you have Croatia, who has the talent, who has the skill, who has the patience to kind of, find some of those holes and expose some of that defense, I think you'll see a little bit. It won't be 4-1. It won't be probably a Croatia win, but I think you'll have a little bit more to see from Brazil coming up than you've had so far this tournament.
I'm not buying it. I think Brazil beats Croatia very easily. I do want to talk about one thing first, though, before we move on.
Yeah.
You had a take. Subbing in Weverton. As we look over here, if you look on the left side of this little screen share, Weverton comes in at goalkeeper, subs out Allison when it's 4-1, 10 minutes left. And I mean, you said that this was bad. You said this was bad. You said this was disrespectful to the Koreans and shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I think it's disrespectful. I don't think it's anything other than poor showmanship, if that's what you want to call it. Brazil obviously is the showman of this tournament, right? The dancing and
so 34-year-old who's dutifully served his nation for years, playing at Palmeiras in the Brazilian league, doesn't have a ton of notoriety, but he's doing his thing. He gets to come visit a foreign land to play in the World Cup against the world's best, and the coach sees a chance to give this guy a chance to get on the field,
right,
and play 10 minutes standing goal and say, I didn't just go to a World Cup, I played in a World Cup. And you think that was a bad thing, apparently.
Well, I think it's just the way it was handled, right? If you're telling me that you want to give the guy an opportunity, the third game of the group stage meant nothing to Brazil, right? So they've completely changed that lineup. Why not just stick him in there and give him a full game? So for me, it was more of just a little bit of a weird time to make a sub. Again, who cares? I mean, the game, it's kind of meaningless, but in my eyes, it was a little disrespectful to the way Brazil handled the situation at the end. again, not going to criticize the dancing. That's part of the culture. But for the coach to get involved in
Please,
the dancing,
no,
you know,
that's not part of their culture. That's part of soccer.
well,
I want
yeah.
more.
I
There's
would love
no
more of the
criticism of the
dancing. I have
dancing
no
whatsoever.
criticism of the
Anyone
dancing.
who criticizes dancing after a goal, please go find some other sport to watch.
Exactly. And you know,
Yeah.
if you don't want them to dance, don't let them score, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And if you don't want them to sub in their third string goalkeeper with 10 minutes left to go, don't let them score. That's what I have to say. I mean,
that's fair. But again, there was a way that they could have done this without kind of a goalie does not get subbed in any, you know, unless it's really an injury or this instance. And so you're basically saying to
there's
them,
10 minutes left in a World Cup game.
Yeah. So you're basically saying to Korea, you know, okay, thanks for showing up. You know, you did good, but we're going to get this guy in because you're nothing, essentially. And so to me,
no, it didn't have anything to do with Korea. That's my whole point, is that they would have done that if they were facing Argentina and they were up 4-1. It's not,
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't. And that's my point. I don't think they would have done something like that against Argentina or anyone else. And that's why it just rubbed me the wrong way. Again,
dead wrong.
It's over.
Dead wrong.
Congrats
dead
to Everton for getting 10
all
minutes.
Right. Dead wrong, but it's all good. We got another game to talk about real quick, and we got, you know, so there's a lot of pool implications from those games, but we do need to talk about the disappointing Spanish team.
Yep.
Who maybe some people will say, oh, well, they're just kind of in a transition between the end of the old guard and the start of the new, and you know, with the 2 18-year-old, you know, the two teenagers in the team, there was always going to be kind of a chance for them to lose a game in a spot. But props to Morocco, man. I loved what Morocco was able to do to these guys. I kind of had a feeling that it was going to happen. I told my gambling buddy 2 bets on this game. I said it'll probably go over, which it didn't. It did. There's not many goals scored. But I said, and also bet Morocco to advance. Just bet Morocco to advance on some nice odds. And so he lost one. He only hit one of those 2 bets, but made money off it. So that was, you know, good times. But what'd you think?
Well, this goes back to my point earlier. So I did take Morocco, but to Johnny's point, the U.S. fan, and I will admit,
you bet on Morocco also.
I am not the best bettor, or I wasn't. Not anymore. I don't bet anymore for this exact reason that I'm about to explain. I heard John Hayes tell us on air that there is a way to bet and say advance and not to say you take them outright. Well, I took Morocco outright versus to advance. And so I, therefore, did not hit. But I put my money
right. You needed them to win in regular time, right?
Correct. Yeah. So but yes, going back to the game, Morocco, I think they're the surprise of this tournament. Clearly, representing the African nations and the Arab nations this far at the tournament, the furthest, of both. The fans are completely behind them. It's amazing to hear the stadium just, get behind them and show that support. They're going to absolutely need it in this next round because I think they're gassed. But Spain, at some point they're going to learn death by 1,000 cuts requires them to be at the murder scene to also create death.
Right.
So
possession without purpose.
Exactly. And I said that to you guys right away, 77% of possession in this game.
And Rodri gets an 8.4 rating just because he made 223 passes,
Yeah. So
you're just racking up meaningless stats.
Yeah. 77% one shot on goal in that. That's 77%. So they kind of deserved it. They had Pedri sitting way deep for some reason and subbing off Gavi. And I get he's young, but he's got that drive. And so
that's a score.
So it's just Luis Enrique, everyone talks about this genius that he is. I don't understand it. I never really quite got where he got this genius from. Tiki-tac has always been there. That's part of Spain's DNA. But sometimes, and we've talked about this, and we'll talk about it with the quarterfinal matchup. Sometimes you just have to shoot the ball. Portugal,
13 shots, 1 on target.
Yeah, but still, one on target.
5 blocked though. Five of those misses were blocked by Moroccans. So that just shows how hard Morocco was playing.
But if you watch that game,
Spain with 0 blocks.
They weren't real shots. They were more, in the box and kind of.
That's what I'm saying. And any shots that might have been a little more dangerous, a Moroccan player would get in front of it before the goalkeeper even had to worry about it.
Exactly. Nice. But you'll see more of that, and that's kind of where I think a player like Pedri who sat on the outside had to shoot more because the way they set it up was for him to kind of have that space to bring out the Moroccan defense, right? If let's say he takes 3 or 4 shots from just outside the box, someone has to come out to meet him, because eventually you give him enough space, or say Gavi, they'll make one in. And so that's the way to separate that defense. And Spain just thought, you know what, we'll pass it through them. And more credit to Morocco. They put 10 guys in the box.
Pass it over here, pass it over there.
Yeah, they put 10 guys in the box, and now how are you going to beat that? So credit to them. They fought, and they have some talent. Hakimi can run up and down the field.
Yeah.
I would love to see him in a race with Mbappe.
Hakimi had a dangerous free kick that was just a little bit over the bar. Ziyech, bad game for him, and really bad game in the fantasy pool, unfortunately. But they still move on, and he's always a threat to have a big game. So
so we'll see. I mean, Portugal.
They'll be playing Portugal.
Thrashed the Swiss. I don't know if we really need to get into that game, to be honest.
I have nothing to say other than it was hilarious that Ronaldo was benched. Yeah, and then the kid who came in for him, Gonzalo Ramos, on a World Cup debut, had a hat trick. That's absolutely incredible.
So this will be an interesting quarterfinal. Like I mentioned, I think Morocco absolutely has to rely on the atmosphere and the adrenaline that they'll get from the fans, because this Portugal team showed up. And they look real nice without that Ronaldo guy on the field. And Morocco is going to be real tough with what they have left in the tank. I
mean, free João Felix, please get this guy out of Atletico. I mean, I'm not the first person to say it. I won't be the last, but and he even said, I mean, he gave a cheeky, salty post-game interview where he kind of like threw shade at his club. It's amazing to see someone who's like so talented and can be like this wonder kid, and he's just like languishing away at a big club. He went to the wrong big club, basically. When he left Benfica to go to Atletico Madrid, it was just the wrong move. It was just, it could not have been more wrong. He should have been in the German league or in the Premier League or something. But
and it's sad, and it is sad because, like you said, it's not that there's moments like in this tournament where you recognize his talent. Everyone has known his talent from when he was that wonder kid at Benfica, like you said.
Yeah.
And so to put him on the bench and waste that, I mean, we all joke about Chelsea wasting Pulisic. This is literally the epitome of wasting top talent, right? So he absolutely dominated this game, Danny Brams. I said to both you and John, the ball has to go through him at some point, and it did. 2 assists today, or the other day, just kind of bossed the game without Ronaldo. He looked like a different person. Like you said, called it out in the press conference afterwards, how he's really looking forward to getting out of Atletico Madrid. The CEO finally kind of made that case. Yes, we're okay with letting him go. Does that mean they're sticking with Simeone? That you can make your own.
Right. That's the thing. It's the coach. Yeah. It's not even about Atletico. It's just about this coach, Diego Simeone.
So, but Portugal looked great. The hat trick, like you mentioned, I don't know if there's ever been a 10.0 on SofaScore, but that's pretty damn close. So this Portugal team is going to be quite
9.8. 9.8. What did this? Let's investigate real quick. What did Gonzalo Ramos do wrong?
Yeah, what was the negative for him last?
Maybe accuracy. He was only hit 70% of his passing.
Oh, sorry for a striker.
Did he have a yellow card? I'm struggling to find.
He played
to find the reason on that one, but
he played a flawless game.
Yeah, absolutely great to see. And Ronaldo did get in. Ronaldo scored a goal that was ruled offside. He knew it was offside when he scored it. So.
And
one of those games.
Is anyone happier than Erik ten Hag? By the way, just want to throw that out there. I mean, clearly what he was able to pull off with Ronaldo is seeing for the rest of the world, and probably no happier man than Erik ten Hag and
Manchester. Yeah, this cup has kind of like vindicated his decisions at Man U to
100%
to sort of punk Ronaldo out of the lineup a little bit.
Yep.
So there's new word. So as of 2 days ago, it was being reported official. Cristiano Ronaldo going to Al Nassr for 200 or for 500 million, I think 200 some a year. And now yesterday it comes out that it's not happening. So we don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah. Transfer window will be wild. It's starting to kind of, things are starting to take shape. You've heard about Cody Gakpo to Manchester United for about 80 million. So a lot to look forward to here after the tournament. There's still Danny Brams. There's still a lot to get done. A lot of football that's really meaningful. That's about to start on Friday. This is big boy time, but yeah, eventually there will be a lot of transfer talk. John mentioned it the other day. We come out of this tournament and it's Boxing Day and Prem starts right back up. So it's quick turn and there'll be some guys moving around. But again, Friday, any thoughts on the big games? This is what we're here for, right?
I would say, what are my thoughts? I would just go rapid fire. I'd say Brazil beats Croatia, Argentina beats Netherlands, both pretty easily. France, England, wow. England capable of winning, but I'm going to take France. I just think France is too good. I think that's like a superpower showdown, though, for sure.
Yeah.
And then Portugal, Morocco. I'm going to be cheering for Morocco. I'll be right. Everybody in the stadium will be cheering for Morocco. Yeah. So it's tough to call it, but Morocco wasn't here by accident. They won their group. Spain did. Spain didn't win their group. Morocco did, and so that even though Spain was the betting favorite, it's a question of whether they should have been. Portugal will be favored here. I'm going to go with Morocco to advance.
Wow.
Just make sure I've noticed I'm betting them to advance. Not
exactly. To advance. Yeah.
Exactly.
You learned. I took one for the team. And no, you clearly know your way around a betting pool better than I do. So
no, I don't bet on soccer that much. I always get confused by like the double chance, like you can win on a win or a draw. I just something in my brain doesn't click with that.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
I don't even.
But I do segue like to bet on fantasy games. So let's bring up the pool because I think it's just about time to look at our leaderboard, who's still being dominated by Sebi Chirita. And Sebi is still at the top. Kevin Knapp gaining 4 points on him on day 17, but losing about 19 points on day 16. Sorry, we're having to do a 2-day recap here, but that's my bad. Level Up Luke, friend of the show, former guest, maybe a future guest. We might get him on another future episode. We had a lot of fun talking to him. And he's up there competing. Top 4 get paid. Remember, you get $100.
Yeah, so we'll just have to make a deal with Layback Luke when he comes back on for some of that prize pool, since it's clearly our doing. When he comes on, he does well. So
I don't know if people have looked at the prizes tab that much, but it's 500 to first, 300 to second, 150 and 100. So kind of a flatter payout. I could have made more of a jackpot up top, but I like to flatten the payout. If I play DraftKings a lot, and like their contests are very top heavy in the payouts, so I prefer to, and I get pissed about that. So I'd be a hypocrite
about the daily prize and
the daily prize. Yeah, exactly.
So,
helps you get most of your money back.
Yeah, I think that's the way that this was broken out was great. To your point, maybe we loaded up on the top for future, but I thought this was great the way it was set up.
Slipsky's making a move with a daily win on day 17. Volak, after the Sun Hung Min midfield controversy over the weekend, if we didn't really talk about that on the videos, but it was in the email supplements. And we caught thanks to Sebi playing Eagle Eyes, Sebi up there helping out, found that Mike Volak and also Jim Wolf, who then he spotted his own roster. So that's my bad for not like triple checking these things. Hopefully someday we'll automate this son of a gun, but Volak now he lost a bunch of points. He dropped, so he wants to come on the show though. As even though, remember, Johnny was like chastising us, like get Volak on the show. He's up at the top. He's no longer up at the top, but we are still going to get him on the show. So
definitely,
we got more episodes to come.
We'll blame John for calling him out and propping him up, and then the news breaking off the wire. So it's
down at the bottom. We got to give wire to wire. It's nearly wire to wire. Last place for Vinny Cash. Love Vinny. Well, he's the man. I'm sure he's laughing about this just like I am. So I'm not trying to make fun of you, brother. But that is kind of funny that you just like hovered down there. Jess Charman, won, like I said, she won the day 16 prize with 84.16 points. And she's climbing. She's in the top. She's out of the 40s range where she was lingering. She's in the mid 30s now, trying to get up to where the first couple of the show, the Hayes family. Look at that. John has passed Rachel.
Yep.
He's got about a 7 and change lead on his wife.
It's getting tight now.
Getting really tight. That KDB captain is really going to come back to haunt Rachel, I think. But
and the Worley brothers,
But then again, John doesn't have Neymar. So Yeah.
Right. He tried to get a little cute, and he doesn't have Messi either. So
yeah.
he's going to need a little help.
Really, really interesting. You got to be somewhat contrarian in this thing. You got to like go against the grain every once in a while.
Make a statement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Worley brothers are almost 100 points apart.
Yeah,
so,
I think Scott's got Chris on the Worley brother battle.
I think he's got him.
And I think Andrew's got Kevin on the Lane brother battle.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So fun though. It's fun to look at, like you said, house divided, and we always look and call that out as a fun way to look at the pool. And
how about some of the
how about me hanging in there in 17th place, Danny Brams?
Yeah, moved up a spot. These guys, you're in with a group of names. These are some of like the oldest participants of the pool. Some of these guys go back to like the 2010
pool that
I first ran.
We all know what we're doing. I hang out with the seasoned folks, and so.
Well, there you go. Yeah. But yeah, really fun. Always fun to check out the leaderboard. I also, and the fantasy MVP race, which is it's amazingly, Christian Pulisic is like hanging tough as the third highest scorer among people who were drafted, obviously.
Right.
Like I think someone like Gonzalo Ramos or Ousmane Dembele probably might have more than him. But yeah, of people who are in the pool, Pulisic at 78 and 0.3, he's he's gonna fall because he has no more games left. Yeah.
And Bruno, and like we said, Bruno didn't play the third game in the group, so he kind of got a little bit up there as well. But yeah, I mean, look, Danny Almo's out, Szczesny's out, Lewandowski's out.
I think Bruno, Gakpo, Grizzi,
he could finish.
I think these three will all pass Pulisic.
Yeah, he could finish
Szczesny can, Omo can. Yeah, so Vinny might. We'll see.
Harry could. Depending on how far England goes, he could pass.
But yeah, to think that Pulisic will end up as like a top 5, top 7 scorer in the pool, and then I look at my own team and I have Yunus Musa is pretty depressing. It's pretty depressing.
We won't talk about whose reasoning that was. So
no, we already did. Yeah, Musa 23 points. Not I mean, it's better than 24, better than 22. But yeah, Pulisic 78 points. So not bad.
No, and it's an interesting one because, obviously a lot coming out of recapping and just some thoughts from the team, as they come home and or get to their clubs. Greg Berhalter in conversation with the U.S. Soccer Federation about signing a new contract extension, players kind of getting back to their clubs and kind of getting back into the swing of things. It'll be interesting to see if, like I mentioned earlier, Christian not getting much playing time and kind of sitting on the bench at Chelsea. Obviously, we're seeing Danny Brams, our pool notwithstanding, like you mentioned, there are players that weren't picked, but obviously a top world talent, and should get some more playing time. A guy like Raheem Sterling, not really delivering this World Cup for England. Does that give Christian an opportunity? So it'll be interesting.
But they paid him a bunch of money, and he's a national hero. So it's kind of,
so we'll see. I mean, we're at the like I mentioned, we still have a lot of business to take care of, but we also have one eye to the season that is. A big bit of news for you. I know we briefly touched on it, but Gabby Jesus out for 3 months for Arsenal. So things like that. We have to kind of keep one eye on the Premier League or domestic leagues as that's the return. So it's interesting.
We always think about like the player who's going to have like a breakout World Cup and like dominate and use that as like a stepping stone or pedestal to like take off to the next level of going into their club season, although usually it's at the start of the club season. It's the World Cup's in the summer. But we rarely consider the opposite end, which is the guy who gets hurt in the World Cup and is all of a sudden his season's in jeopardy, and it could be months now for Gabby. And that's not good for Arsenal, who's trying to, look at Manchester United. They have Julian Alvarez, who's finally starting to get more playing time for them. He's having a breakout World Cup. Pulisic for Chelsea, you could say, having a little bit of a breakout World Cup. I do agree with you. Pulisic is a top world talent. I don't agree that it's because of this pool. Because no. I can tell you this pool. It has nothing to do with this pool. Yeah. Well, but what I'm saying is this: like, it has nothing to do with him being like third place among point scorers in the pool, because the DraftKings scoring system is more rewarding to like donkey players who just like blindly cross the box like for no reason than it is for people. If you're like really good at like dribbling through somebody and making an amazing run, I think that's does nothing for you in DraftKings. Like you could think of Maradona's run, his epic run against England, through the midfield or whatever score, he would have just gotten the goal, just 12 points for that.
But we've talked about it, and I think I've shared my feelings on where he sits, but it would be nice to see, let him get some more playing time. Like I said, he showed and definitely showed his stuff more than Raheem Sterling for Chelsea. Another guy that's you mentioned, this tournament being an opportunity. Again, I know the pool didn't have much impact or play on this, but a Yunus Musa, will he be at Valencia for much longer? Does he get to go to another place? Things like that. So really,
Tyler Adams to Arsenal, please.
Yeah, no, I hope not. Really interesting time. Again, I definitely want to break down. I know we have a little bit of a break between games on Friday. So, hopefully we can.
Who are your picks? I get my picks. Who are your picks?
Yeah, I mean, I would love a little bit more time, but if you're going to put me on the spot about them, I think
rapid fire, man. Instant. You go with your first instinct.
Croatia. Croatia will beat Brazil. I'm standing on that flag. Sure. Someone will beat them.
Keep picking against Brazil and see what happens.
No, at some point I will pick Brazil. So Brazil will lose to Croatia. Argentina, I think this is Messi's year. Messi will take care of business. Portugal, I think Morocco's out of gas. I think it's just too many injuries, too big a hill to climb. I don't think it's Portugal because of how good they are. I think it's Squeaker, but I think Morocco just doesn't have the legs.
That's fair.
I don't want to pick this game, Danny Brams. I really don't want to pick this game. Heart. France, of course, is my heart, but France is definitely the underdog. I don't want to.
Questionable.
I understand in the desert, France is the favorite, but if you look at this roster,
which desert?
Yeah, fair. Both deserts. If you look at this English roster, they really, really give France nightmares. They match up really well with everybody. They're deeper, I think, a little bit. France is definitely talented, but I think some of the injuries have impacted. I don't think, having Tchouaméni as a sub in this game would have been a much better situation than having him be a starter. I think, England being able to pull on a Calvin Phillips for one of those defensive midfielders, whether that is Jordan Henderson or Declan Rice. And then up front, they have a wide variety of players, Foden, Rashford, Saka. They can interchange all those guys very similarly. We don't have that ability, to be honest. I think Kingsley Coman is a great winger, but besides that, the depth is behind and kind of lacking on up front. So, yeah,
I'll give England the depth. Yeah, I'll give England the depth, but the problem is they're going to be down 3-0 or 3-1 before they can really bring it in. I think France is unstoppable.
I do think you're going to see more from Antoine Griezmann. I think Giroud will help. I don't think it's going to be the Kylian Mbappe show as much. I think a lot was made about how he carries this team, rightfully so. Obviously, 2 goals and an assist last game, but I think that.
But he also just does whatever he wants, man.
Exactly, and I think you'll see guys, like I said, like Ousmane Dembele have a little bit more freedom and show off a little bit more down that right-hand side. Also, one thing that I would love to point out, and I don't know if this is going to happen, everyone is saying Kylian Mbappe down the left. Don't be surprised if he ends up on the right. I think that matchup going against Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire is much better. You can put Dembele on the left and he can come in on that right foot. So just something to keep an eye out for. A lot of talk about that right-hand side with Kyle Walker, how strong he is, rightfully so. Maybe France are going to try and mix and match, put things away and kind of, take him away from some of that strength. You have Giroud kind of floating, kind of coming in behind. So, to your point, there's a lot to like about this game. I would love to chat about it with, some of our guests that we've had in the past and kind of get their thoughts. It's a big one, Danny Brams. This is the game of the round. I think Argentina, Brazil is the next one.
The good news is that it is the showcase game Saturday afternoon Eastern time in the United States.
Yep.
It is there's college football's gone. There's no more college football on Saturdays. So there probably are some NFL games, but it's going to have it's going to be it's like primetime viewing, I think, for sure. So I'm looking forward to it. We will probably come back. I don't know if we'll get another episode in before Friday's games, but on our either way, when we recap Friday's games and whatnot, we will we'll have an extended breakdown. So we'll give you a couple days to get your England France thoughts together.
I appreciate that. There's a big,
I want you to come back on Friday night a lot more confident France fan, because right now you're kind of making me sad, to be honest.
I am sad, but this I will say. And last point, and I definitely will come back Friday with more to touch on it. The winner of this game will be in the final. I think it's safe to say. I think
heavy favorite to get there easily.
Heavy favorite to get there.
Yeah.
I think depending on the result of Portugal, Morocco.
Right. That's a war of attrition.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. But
yeah.
I think the winner of this will have had the battle tested mentality and the roster to get to the final. Who they face, I think, will be in that semifinal matchup, which is going to be just as epic if it happens, but we'll get to it when we get there.
My pre-tourney pick was Argentina to win the tourney, but I don't see anybody beating this Brazil team right now. Unless Neymar got Woods to get hurt again.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They just, I know you're going to say, oh, it was just against South Korea or whatever, but like, no, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
They knew
Neymar and Vinny can be that those two working together are just really unstoppable. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, Danny Brams, I'm glad you're feeling better. Get some rest. We have a big weekend ahead of us. So I want you to get some orange juice in you, rest up, and we'll see you when we see you. But until then,
for the cup, baby.